Hey, my name is Angela. I'm a holistic registered dietitian, nutritionist, and welcome back to my channel. Today on what is new in nutrition research, I'm going to be going over 2 articles in regards to type 2 diabetes and 1 article on tools to help with weight loss, and this looked at people who were overweight or obese. All right, in this first study looked at physical activity, air pollution, and type 2 diabetes. And what they wanted to find was if physical activity may increase a person's, you're going to take in more air pollution, and therefore how is that affecting health outcomes such as type 2 diabetes. And so they took 156,000 plus participants who did not have diabetes at the start of this. So these were in adults 18 years or older who joined the study from 2001 to 2016, and whether or not they had gotten type 2 diabetes. And so they compared high physical activity, which is if you're doing an activity that's very vigorous, then you're not able to talk very much. You may be able to say a few words, but that's about it, compared to those who did moderate activity, which is you can definitely talk while doing that activity, or low activity, which you can definitely sing a song while doing it. It's not as, so the intensity of talking and breathing is definitely there. So whether you're gasping in more air because of the intensity. So they wanted to see how much, if you're taking in more air pollution because of that higher intensity or moderate intensity, is that affecting whether or not you get type 2 diabetes. And so they found that those who had higher physical activity but lower intake of these air pollutants were associated with less risk of type 2 diabetes. But if you have a habitual regimen of physical activity, if you're constantly having some type of habit where you're doing physical activity every single day for so many days, then you can reduce your risk of getting type 2 diabetes regardless of how much exposure to pollution that you get. And so the current recommendations for physical activity are about 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise or 75 minutes of vigorous type of intensity type exercise within 1 week, or you could definitely do a combination of both and that would be fine. That's the current guidelines for the amount of physical activity. And so this study is great to show the necessity of creating a good habit of physical activity. So if you find something that you like and you love to do, then definitely doing that frequently on several days throughout the week. You can alternate different types of activity to still get the benefit of creating a habit. And so I like to tell people, regardless of what activity, find something you like to do and just do it. It could be that you're out walking or jogging, or that you love swimming or playing tennis, or you like to play sports. But if you find something you like to do, then just stick with it and do it, and challenge yourself too. That also helps to continue to have a great habit in physical activity. You're always trying to challenge yourself and improve on the activity itself. All right. And so in the next study that we're going to talk about is also in regards to those who have the potential risk of getting type 2 diabetes. And this was looking at those who were eating particular types of foods and their risk of type 2 diabetes. And so this took 73,000 plus participants who were postmenopausal women in a women's health initiative study in March of 2019. And this study had just come out recently, and they did 13.3 years of follow-up. And they found that 11,000 of those 73,000 participants got type 2 diabetes. And so what they had found, those who were consuming foods that were definitely pro-inflammatory and had increased their blood insulin levels higher than normal. And insulin is a hormone that helps to take sugar out of the bloodstream and put it into your cells. And so these people who had eaten a certain type of diet that was more inflammatory in nature also had higher levels of insulin in their blood, which contribute to a greater risk of having or getting type 2 diabetes. And so what's interesting is that they took and showed what type of diet these women were eating and the types of foods that kind of correlated with what a pro-inflammatory diet was. And so what they had said is those who had a high blood levels of insulin also had a low intake of fiber, carbohydrate, calcium, lycopene, which is an antioxidant found. Most people think of tomatoes because it's that red, it gives that red intensity color, but it's also found in like watermelon. And so lycopene, they had lower intakes of lycopene, but they had higher intakes of protein, cholesterol, and total fat, especially saturated fat. And those who were eating these foods most were 49% higher risk of getting type 2 diabetes. 49%. That's huge. It's kind of mind-blowing. Almost half of those who were eating those types of food most were likely to get type 2 diabetes. All right, and so what they also compared was those who ate a low inflammatory type diet, an anti-inflammatory diet, who also had low levels of insulin circulating in their blood, who were normal weight. They compared those to women who were overweight or obese, who were consuming a pro-inflammatory diet with high levels of insulin circulating in their blood. Those women who were eating more pro-inflammatory, who were overweight or obese, were 72 to 73% higher risk of getting type 2 diabetes. And so that's a huge, shocking amount of women who, depicting what they were eating, postmenopausal women, and the fact that they were already overweight or obese just made it more likely for them to get type 2 diabetes. This really does indicate how important what we put into our bodies on a daily basis and how it affects our risk for diseases. Food plays a huge role in our overall health, and so I just want to be able to share this information with you to encourage you to be able to make healthier choices in what you're doing. All right. And so if you are overweight or obese, this third study can be of a help to you because it shows about self-monitoring and digital devices and how that helps with weight loss. And so this came out on the 23rd of February, randomized controlled trials over 12 weeks or more, and those who even went further with the weight outcomes of greater than 6 months of self-monitoring of their weight. They looked at 39 studies from 2009 to 2019 and whether or not what they were self-monitoring and how that affected weight loss. Websites were the most common self-monitoring tool that people were using to track. They were also using mobile devices, wearables, electronic scales, and also there was text messaging involved too. And so these interventions also with counseling had similar rates to standalone interventions. And so what it showed that these use of these digital tools actually helped with increasing weight loss in 74% of participants. And so majority were using, like I said, a website or probably or a food tracking app, but also they were doing physical activity as a tracking, so like the wearables, and also monitoring their weight. the most useful tool to continue with self-monitoring information is using a wearable watch. We don't necessarily have to think about it. It just automatically tracks the information. Or sometimes you have to go in and put that you're doing an activity, or doing like an e-scale where you're weighing yourself and it goes and links to an app that you're tracking other things. And so these use of tracking the weight in some sort of passive way was a very helpful for people trying to lose weight, as well as tracking some sort of intake of food digitally. So what's interesting in this study is that even just self-tracking, monitoring your weight was shown to reduce weight loss. Not doing the other things where you're tracking your physical activity or your food intake, they found that even though the people that would just track their weight show that they can just lose weight by doing that. I mean, that's definitely a self-monitoring, keeping yourself very accountable. I get a lot of people that I talk to after the fact, after they've been sedentary for a while and then they've gained weight, or there's some kind of life event and that increases their weight because they're maybe less physically active because they broke their leg or had an injury, or they're not exercising like they should, or they get off track of what they should be doing, or stress happens. You know, if you continue to monitor your weight on a regular basis, that might trigger in your mind to say, hey, let me, switch directions. Maybe I'm eating, too much more than I should be, or decrease stress in my life, besides using food. How else can I go about this? So just monitoring your weight on a regular basis, basically what I'm trying to say, can also help with weight loss. But definitely all these other digital type tools have been shown to be effective with helping people lose weight, whether you're tracking via a wearable or tracking through an e-scale or tracking your food. A lot of different tools we have nowadays are extremely helpful to keep ourselves accountable to ourselves on a daily basis. And so I hope this gives you some insight into different things that help with prevention of type 2 diabetes, whether it's exercising or eating a healthy diet. I do have, if you haven't seen my information on anti-inflammatory diet, I will link it. But also I have a meals of what does an anti-inflammatory foods or meals look like. That will be in the description box, so you can be able to check that out, because like I was saying in this study, of how beneficial it was for eating an anti-inflammatory diet in prevention of type 2 diabetes compared to those who were eating more pro-inflammatory of protein, high fat, high saturated fat type foods. And then also if you're overweight, this other third study looked at devices and tools that you could be able to use to lose weight. All this information, these studies will be linked in the description box. If you want to take a further dive and look into that, then you are more than welcome to. If you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment down below. Otherwise, please subscribe to my channel. Give this a thumbs up if you enjoy learning about new research that comes out in nutrition. Otherwise, I hope you have a happy, healthy day. Bye.